The most frightening kind of intrusion is not the kind where something is obviously broken or missing. It's the kind where everything looks exactly right, except for one small thing that you can't quite explain, and then another small thing, and then another. And by the time you understand what those small things mean, you realize that someone has been in your home, and has been in your home for a long time, and has been very careful about not letting you know. A woman named Claire had lived alone in her apartment in Chicago for 2 years. 3rd floor. Deadbolt. Chain lock she used every night. She was not careless about her security. She had grown up in a city and she knew the basics. She checked that the door was locked before she slept. She had a neighbor she trusted on the same floor. It started in October. Small things. The kind that are easy to dismiss. A mug she was certain she'd left on the right side of the dish rack was on the left. A phone charger she kept on her nightstand was on the floor. Her laptop, which she always closed, was open when she came home from work. She told herself she was misremembering. She was tired. She worked long hours. The human brain fills in gaps with assumptions, and sometimes the assumptions are wrong. But the small things kept happening. In November, she came home to find a window in her bedroom unlocked. She was absolutely certain she had not unlocked it. She lived on the 3rd floor and had never opened that window. It was painted shut on the outside, or so she'd assumed. She checked. It wasn't painted shut. It moved freely. She called her building's property manager and asked who had access to her unit. The manager said, herself, the property management office, and the maintenance staff. 3 people, all vetted. She changed her locks anyway, paid for it herself. New deadbolt, new hardware, new keys that she gave to no one. The small things stopped for 2 weeks. Then they started again. In December, she found it. She was reorganizing her closet, something she had been putting off for weeks, moving boxes from the top shelf to sort through them. Behind the last box, pushed into the back corner of the shelf where the shadows were deepest, she found a small device she did not recognize. It was the size of a USB drive, black. With a tiny lens on one end, a camera, it was positioned pointing outward from the shelf, toward her bed. Claire sat on her floor for a long time without moving. Then she called the police. The officers who responded confirmed what she already knew. It was a recording device. A small wireless camera, the kind available for around $30 online, that transmitted footage to an app on a phone. They checked the device. It was actively transmitting. Somewhere on someone's phone, there was a live feed of her bedroom. The investigation found no usable fingerprints on the device. It had been wiped. The app it transmitted to was registered to a burner account with no traceable information. What the investigation did find, through the building's elevator and lobby camera footage, was a man. Always the same man. Entering the building in the hours after midnight over a period of 6 weeks, always when the lobby was empty, always moving toward the elevator with his face angled away from the camera. Never caught on the 3rd floor hallway camera, which the building manager confirmed had been malfunctioning since late October. The camera in Claire's closet had been placed during that 6-week window. The man was never identified. He was never caught. Claire moved out within 2 weeks. She did not tell her new building's management where she had moved from. She keeps no items of value near any window. She checks every surface of every new room she enters. She replaced the closet in her new apartment with open shelving. Nothing that could hide anything behind it. She says the thing that she cannot stop thinking about is not what he saw. It's how long it went on before she found it. She found the camera in December. It had footage going back to September. 3 months, 12 weeks. 80-some days of her life, inside her home, inside the room she considered most private, recorded and transmitted to someone she never identified. She was never alone in her own home. She just didn't know it. Story 2. Most people know in an abstract way that photographs contain hidden information. Every photo taken on a smartphone embeds metadata, data about data. The time the photo was taken, the device it was taken on, and, unless you have specifically disabled it, the GPS coordinates of exactly where you were standing when you took it. This is called EXIF data. It is invisible to the naked eye. It travels with every image you share online, unless the platform you share it on strips it. And not all of them do. Most people know this in the abstract. Very few people think about it in practice. And almost no one thinks about it every single time they post a photo. A woman named Jess ran a small lifestyle account on a photography platform. Nothing large, a few thousand followers. People who liked her photos of her neighborhood, her plants, her food. She was careful in obvious ways. No last name, no employer, no identifying location tags in her captions. She thought she was anonymous. She was not anonymous. She first became aware of him through comments. Thoughtful comments, specific ones, complimenting not just the images but the details within them. The type of light at a particular hour. A reflection visible in a window. Things that required close looking. She assumed he was a photography enthusiast. She responded occasionally. It felt normal. Then he sent a direct message. He said he thought her work was beautiful and that he'd love to see her neighborhood in person sometime. He asked which part of the city she lived in. She did not respond. 3 weeks later, there was a knock on her door at 11 p.m. She looked through the peephole. A man she did not recognize, standing at her door at 11 p.m. at an address she had never given anyone on the platform. She did not open the door. She called the police. By the time officers arrived, he was gone. The investigation that followed revealed something that Jess has spoken about publicly in the years since, because she believes it is something everyone who posts photos online needs to understand. Her photographs had EXIF data enabled. Several of the images she had posted, taken from her window, from her balcony, from the street in front of her building, contained GPS coordinates accurate to within 3 meters of her front door. He had not needed her address. Her photographs had given it to him. The platform she used did strip EXIF data from images uploaded through its app, but Jess had occasionally posted through a third-party tool that did not. Those images, 12 of them over 8 months, had gone up with full location data attached. The investigation found the account he had used. It had been created specifically to follow her 6 months before the knock on the door. In those 6 months, he had liked 847 of her posts, left 134 comments, and sent 7 direct messages, the last of which sent 4 days before the knock. She hadn't seen because she had blocked the account. He had created a new account the same day she blocked him. He was eventually identified through IP address data. He was a man she had never met, who lived in her city, who had spent 6 months systematically studying her images, extracting her location, and learning the layout of her neighborhood. He was charged with stalking. He pled guilty. In her victim impact statement, Jess said something that has been shared thousands of times since. She said, "I thought I had built walls between myself and the world. I had not. I had built windows, and I had left them open. The XF data is still embedded in every photo you have ever posted. Check your settings before you post the next one." Story 3. The most dangerous stalker is not the one who follows you on the street. The most dangerous stalker is the one who has made himself invisible in your life, who has learned the texture of your routine so completely that he can be near you without ever being noticed, because he has positioned himself where you would never think to look, right across the street. A woman named Rachel moved into a house in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Ohio with her husband and young daughter in the spring of a year she describes as the happiest of her life. Good schools, safe streets, neighbors who waved when you drove past. One of those neighbors was a man named Gary. He lived in the house directly across from hers. He was retired, soft-spoken, always pleasant. He helped people carry in groceries. He organized the neighborhood watch. He was, by every external measure, the most trustworthy person on the block. For 2 years, Rachel waved to Gary from her driveway. Her daughter liked him. Her husband had beers with him on holidays. They had him to dinner once. The only reason they found out was because Gary died. Not dramatically. A heart attack in his sleep. His son came to clear the house and called the police after 20 minutes inside. What they found in Gary's house took investigators 3 days to fully document. The second bedroom, the one that faced the street, the one with the window that looked directly at Rachel's front door, had been converted into what the investigators' report described as a surveillance center. One wall was covered floor to ceiling in photographs. Photographs of Rachel, of her husband, of her daughter, taken over 2 years from across the street through a telephoto lens from Gary's window. Getting into the car, coming home, playing in the yard, sitting on the porch. Hundreds of photographs organized chronologically, some of them annotated in Gary's handwriting with times and dates and notes about what she was doing, where she was going, how long she was gone. There were journals, 12 of them, covering every day of the 2 years Rachel had lived across the street, written in the same precise handwriting as the annotations on the photographs, detailing what she wore, what time she left in the morning, what time her husband left, what time her daughter's school bus came, whether there was a light on in the bedroom at night and at what hour it went off. There were maps, hand-drawn maps of her neighborhood, her grocery store, her daughter's school, her gym, routes marked and timed. There were pages. Rachel has never read them, and the investigators asked that their contents not be released, that detailed in Gary's handwriting things about Rachel that investigators described only as deeply personal projections, a constructed inner life he had built for her, built entirely from observation, from the outside of her windows and the front of her house, from 2 years of watching a woman live her life without ever knowing he existed in that capacity. Gary had never touched her, had never made contact beyond the ordinary neighborly interactions that she remembered as entirely pleasant. He had simply watched and recorded and imagined for 2 years. Rachel has said in one interview that she refuses to describe what she felt when the detective told her about the room. She says language isn't adequate for it. She uses the word erased, the feeling that 2 years of what she thought was her private life had not, in fact, been private at all. She moved her family out of that house within a month. She says the hardest part, harder than the photographs, harder than the journals, harder than any of it, is remembering the dinners, the holidays, the times Gary had sat at her table and she had offered him food and conversation, and he had been, by every measure, she had a good neighbor and a kind man. She says she thinks about the version of Gary she knew, and she thinks about what was going on inside the house across the street while that version of Gary was sitting at her table. And she says she has never fully been able to trust a neighbor since. Not because she believes most people are like Gary, but because Gary convinced her for 2 years that he wasn't like Gary either.